All right, you fuckers, welcome back for another deep dive. And this time we're going full on Brit, tackling the holy grail of football highlights. Match of the day MOTD for all you lazy
At the
bastards.
show that's been kicking around for over half a century.
Fucking right, it has. And to help us unpack this shitstorm, we've got a proper expert. Someone who knows more about football broadcasting than a linesman knows about offsides.
Hopefully,
Let's cut the crag. Why the fuck is MOTD such a big deal? Is it just another wank fest for armchair pundits?
it's way more than that. It's practically a religion for football fans. Saturday night rolls around, you're stuffed with takeaway, probably a few pints deep, and bam, there's MOTV. It's been a ritual for generations.
All right, fair play, but we're not here for bloody lovin'. Let's dig into the guts of this beast. Where the hell did it all begin?
You might be surprised to hear this, but the first match of the day wasn't even bloody football.
Wait, what, are you taking the piss?
Dead serious. It was Wimbledon tennis, back in 1964. They used the name for tennis highlights before slapping it on the beautiful game.
Well, fuck me sideways. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So when did the real MOTD, the football one, finally grace our screens?
August 22nd, 1964, mate. Liverpool versus Arsenal at Anfield. Get this, only 20,000 people tuned in.
Pathetic. There were probably more people taking a piss at halftime during the actual match.
You're not wrong. You'd think people would be frothing at the mouth to see the highlights, but back then there was a load of resistance to showing football on the telly.
What kind of asshat would be against that?
The clubs mainly, they were shitting themselves that showing highlights would keep people from going to the matches, thought it would decimate their attendance figures.
Greedy bastards. It's always about the bloody money, isn't it?
Tell me about it. So the BBC had to suck it up and make a compromise. They agreed not to announce which match they'd be showing until after all the games were done. Imagine the suspense waiting all day to see if your team even made the cut.
Talk about blue balls, but hey, at least it got the ball rolling right, so spill the beans. How did the show crawl out of the dark ages and evolve? Did they ever catch up with the times?
Thankfully, technology didn't completely fuck them over. Color arrived in '68, can you imagine? Then they introduced slow motion replays in '69. I bet people lost their shit.
Slow motion, probably about as exciting as watching paint dry back then, but I guess it was a step up from grainy black and white footage.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the competition in the '70s and '80s. ITV waltzed in with The Big Match, their own football show, and the battle for broadcasting rights got nasty.
Back when you had two channels and thought you were spoiled for choice, so what happened? Did they just slug it out for viewers?
It sparked some massive changes. MOTD started doing live broadcasts in the '83-'84 season, something that was practically unheard of before.
Live football on the telly. There must have been riots in the pubs. So how did MOTD deal with the arrival of the big dog Sky Sports in the 90s?
They had to adapt or die. Basically, they lost, then regained the Premier League rights, launched Match of the Day 2 for Sunday matches. Even tried a web-only Match of the Day 3 that sank faster than a lead balloon.
Match of the Day 3. Who the fuck has time for that much football?
Apparently not many. Speaking of changes, let's talk about the show's digs. I bet the studios were always top-notch, right?
Yeah, all posh and shit, I bet.
Not exactly. They broadcast from BBC Television Centre for years, but in 2011 they packed their bags and moved up north to the fancy Dock 10 studios in Media City, UK.
From the smoke to, well, probably more bloody smoke if we're honest.
The new studios were state-of-the-art, though, all set up for HD broadcasting, a proper leap forward.
HD posh bastards. All right, enough about the tech stuff. Let's talk about the real stars of the show. The presenters. You can't talk about MOTD without mentioning the main man, can you?
Gary Lineker, he's been the face of MOTD for over 2 decades.
He's probably been there longer than some of these players' careers.
True, though. And of course, there are the analysts. We've had some proper characters over the years. Alan Shearer, Ian Wright, Micah Richards. They've all brought something different to the table.
Some more insightful than others, I'd say. Remember that time.
And let's not forget the controversies like Lineker's suspension in 2023 over that tweet.
Yeah, that was a clusterfuck of epic proportions. But at least they brought him back, and fair play to them. They finally let a woman commentate in 2007, Jackie Oatley, about bloody time.
A landmark moment for sure.
Right, let's address the elephant in the room, the bloody theme tune. That shit's been stuck in my head since I was a kid.
Barry Stoller composed it back in 1970. Apparently he just wanted to write something good, and he bloody nailed it.
He did, didn't he? But it pisses me off when people call it offside.
Yeah, that's a lot of bollocks. Offside is a different version, released by some bloke called Mike Vickers.
So there you have it, folks. It's match of the day, not offside. Get it right, you Muppets. All right, let's park the music chat for now and dive deeper into the MOTD madness after a quick word from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere, you beautiful bastards.
That bloody theme music, like a Pavlovian trigger for football fans. Hear those first few notes and you're ready for some action.
Speaking of action, we've been chatting about how MOTD evolved, but it's mental how closely its history mirrors the changes in English football itself.
Totally. It's been there through thick and thin, hasn't it? From the days of muddy pitches and dodgy haircuts to the flashy, money-soaked spectacle it is now.
It's like watching the whole bloody sport grow up right before our eyes.
Take the Premier League era, for example, when Sky Sports barged in and snagged the live rights. A lot of folks thought that was curtains for MOTD.
Probably cracked open the champagne, greedy bastards.
But the BBC dug in their heels and fought back, eventually winning the rights to show the highlights. And you know what? For a lot of fans, those highlights are all they need. It's become the go-to way to catch up on the action.
Yeah, who the fuck wants to sit through a whole 90 minutes of that shite when you can get the good bits crammed into a nice little package? Saves you the boredom and the heartache.
Yeah.
Especially if teams playing like a bunch of donkeys.
You've got that right. And let's not forget the accessibility factor. Not everyone can shell out for Sky Sports, but pretty much anyone in the UK can watch MOTD. It's like a public service, really.
Public service, you make it sound like watching paint dry is a national duty.
All right, maybe not that extreme, but it does bring people together. It gives them something to talk about, even if they didn't watch the matches live. It's a shared experience,
Right, a shared experience of watching a bunch of blokes chase a ball around a field.
Yeah.
You're a funny guy.
Don't underestimate the power of football, mate, but let's look ahead. What about the future of MOTD? How does it survive in this crazy media landscape?
Good question. Streaming services are popping up faster than pimples on a teenager's face, and everyone's fighting for eyeballs. How the hell does MOTD stay relevant in all that chaos?
It's a tough challenge, that's for sure, but they've been around for ages, haven't they? Adaptation is key. I reckon they've already embraced digital platforms.
You mean they've finally figured out how to use Twitter? Took them long enough?
They've got a decent online presence and are making content beyond the usual highlights show, podcasts, documentaries, you name it.
Sounds like they're trying to be all things to all people.
In a way, yeah, they need to cater to a wider audience, especially the younger lot who probably wouldn't know terrestrial TV if it slapped them in the face.
Those little shits probably get their football fix on TikTok or some other bollocks.
But even with all this change, I think there will always be a place for MOTD. It's too ingrained in the culture, too much a part of what makes English football what it is.
You're a right optimist, aren't you? Always looking on the bright side?
Well, I do have faith in the enduring appeal of watching a bunch of blokes kick a ball around.
You and me both, mate. You and me both. But enough about the future. Let's rewind back to the past for a minute. We've talked about the presenters. But what about the pundits, love them or hate them?
Yeah.
They're a huge part of the MOTD experience.
Absolutely. They're the ones dishing out the analysis, the insights, and let's be honest, the entertainment. Because sometimes, let's face it, the football itself can be a bit of a snooze fest.
You can say that again. Watching a goalless draw is about as exciting as watching paint dry.
But a good pundit can make even the dullest match worth watching. They offer different perspectives, get the debates going, and sometimes even crack you up.
Or make you want to hurl your remote at the telly in frustration.
That too, mate. Who are some of your favorite MOTD pundits?
Ooh, tough one. There have been loads over the years. I always liked Ellen Hansen. Straight-talking bloke, knew his stuff. What about you?
Hansen was a legend for sure. And Ian Wright, he's always good for a laugh.
Righty, he's a national treasure, full of energy, even if he gets a bit carried away sometimes. But you need that passion, don't you?
And he's not afraid to speak his mind, which is always refreshing.
Exactly. Who wants a bunch of yes men agreeing with each other all the time? Where's the fun of that? Give me a pundit who's not afraid to stir the pot. Speaking of which, Micah Richards has been a brilliant addition to the team.
Big Micah, he's a breath of fresh air, full of enthusiasm, loves taking the piss, and actually looks like he's enjoying himself.
And he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe with the old guard. Makes for great telly.
You've got to have that clash of opinions. Different generations, butting heads, keeps things interesting.
Couldn't agree more. Think about all these pundits. It makes you realize that MOTD is more than just a show, isn't it? It's a platform for these ex-players to share their knowledge, their passion, and their personalities.
It gives them a chance to become something more than just footballers.
Yeah, like national heroes or something.
Well, maybe not all of them, but you get the idea. And speaking of platforms, this deep dive needs to explore the dark side of MOTD, the controversies. We'll get into that right after this.
All right, you lot, we're back and ready to get stuck into the juicy bits, MOTD's controversies. Because Let's face it, no show that's been on the telly for over half a century can escape pissing someone off.
True that it's like a bloody law of physics or something, and MOTD has had its fair share of shitstorms over the years.
Oh yeah, from bias accusations to presenters acting like twats, it's all gone down. Where do we even start?
Let's kick off with the bias accusations. They've been a constant thorn in MOTD's side since day one. Every club thinks the show favors their rivals, right?
Of course they do. If their team loses, it's always the ref's fault, the FA's fault, or MOTD's fault for showing all the wrong angles. It's never their team playing like a bunch of wankers.
Classic football tribalism, isn't it? Everyone thinks they're getting shafted.
Yeah, but sometimes it goes beyond just a bit of banter. Remember that time Tottenham fans went ape shit when MOTD showed a replay of that dodgy penalty decision against them?
Oh, yeah, they bombarded the BBC with complaints, threatened to boycott the show, the lot.
They need to get a grip. It's just a bloody football show, not the end of the world.
Easy for you to say, mate. You support Man United. They're usually the ones getting the rub of the green.
Oi, watch it. You trying to start a fight.
Just a bit of friendly rivalry, yeah?
Right, let's move on. Before this deep dive turns into a pub brawl, what about presenter controversies? We already mentioned Lineker's Twitter fiasco, but there have been others, haven't there?
Loads, mate. There was that whole debacle with Hansen and those off-air comments. What a bellend.
Oh yeah, that was a car crash. Cost him his job in the end, didn't it?
Surety proof that even national treasures can fuck up royally.
Especially when there's a microphone and a few too many pints involved.
Exactly. And let's not forget the pundits. They're always good for a headline or two.
You mean like when Lawrenson said that Lukaku was carrying too much timber?
That's the one social media went mental.
It's all part of the MOTD circus, isn't it? Love it or hate it. It's never dull.
You're not wrong. So what's the verdict? Is MOTD a force for good or evil in the world of football?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. It can be informative, entertaining, and even make you think. But it can also be biased, controversial, and downright infuriating.
Just like football itself, really.
Bang on. It's a reflection of the beautiful game warts and all.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our deep dive into Match of the Day, a show that's been entertaining, informing, and pissing us off for over 50 years, and I'm sure it'll keep on doing so for many years to come. Here's to MOTD, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in, you bunch of legends. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into something else that might just blow your minds. Until then, up yours.